Now let's take a look at what's known as the color sampler tool. Now keep in mind the eyedropper tool does sample color. However, it's not quite as extensive as the color sampler tool. So let's click on that. Now, when we talk about sample size, we got to give some attention to this area up here. Now again, this is a 16-bit image, so it has a lot of tonality variation, very slight tonality variation. It's just has a lot of image information in it. So rather than just doing a single pixel sample, which is really kind of not good enough, 3 by 3 is really not large enough either. And so for an image of this magnitude, I would say even go to an 11 by 11 average, especially since we're trying to do color correction. Now, when we look at this image, it's obviously out of white balance. I accidentally set this on a tungsten setting instead of the custom setting in my camera that I had established with the Expo disc and the strobe. So let's look and see how we can make this image color corrected by simply looking at the numbers in the RGB color space. So what we're going to do is when we click one area, a sample is deposited. It's an anchored of a sample. Now, I know for a fact that this is a 155 neutral gray background because that's what I bought and that's what I used in the studio when I took this picture. Now, Laura also had on a pure black outfit here, so this is going to be a very easy photograph to color correct. And so we're going to establish a sample area. I don't want it down here where there really is a minimal of image information and nothing but noise. And I want to put it somewhere that's going to be representative. So let's go ahead and put it right here. It's got some light on it, and I think it's going to help us out quite a bit. Now notice right here, anchor number 1 right here is displayed in this area where the number 1 is. Here's number 2, which is the sample on the dress. Now since we know that we want to get the RGB values as close together as possible, let's go ahead and do the adjustments, and I'm going to use the Curves dialog box to do these adjustments, and I'm purposely covering up Laura because I don't want to see what is happening on the image. All I want to do is read these numbers right here, and I'm going to go to the blues, and I'm going to pull this down until these numbers line up just a little bit. Let's go to 6. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then I'm going to go to red, and I'm going to boost the red just ever so slightly right there. And now we have 61, 61, 61 on that area, and then we're very, very close on the black. So according to the numbers, well, this image is white balanced. So let's take a look at the image and see how it looks, and indeed we have returned this to white balance. Now this was how the image looked coming out of the camera. This is a correct white balance, and this is the correction. Very, very close. However, the one thing I do see in this image, and the one thing you're going to deal with when shooting portraits, especially portraits with people with blonde hair, is that it's very easy to give this blonde hair a green hue. So I'm going to come up, adjustments. This time let's use color balance because I can do things a little more finitely with color balance, and let's just give it a skosh down. Just a tiny bit. Let's say -3. Let's let that be it. Now we have perfection. We have no green tinging on the blonde hair. We got really good skin tones. We've got a neutral gray background. We've returned this dress to a pure black. And that, my friends, is how to do manual color correction with the color sampler tool. And really what you're going to do with the eyedropper tool is sample individual color swatches for either use at a later time, or you can go ahead and set the color for both the paint bucket tool and the paint brush tool, or the brush tool. So there you have it. Now the other thing you can do with eyedroppers, and let's take a look at the Curves dialog box. Wait, before we do that, let's go ahead and return this image to its poor previous state of affairs. We'll click on Image, we'll go to Curves, and we'll pick the middle eyedropper tool. Pull this out of the way. Now we simply click on this area, and lo and behold, it has returned to a neutral gray area, especially because we have such a large sample, 11 pixels by 11 pixels. It gives us a really good sample size and an accurate result, which resembles what we did manually. See here, we pushed up the greens, we pushed up the reds a little more than that, and then we pulled down the blues to reduce the amount of blue for a balance. So let's check and see how we did. Well, I messed it up, so let's go back and do it again. Click on it. This time we want to save it instead of cancel. Now let's look at our numbers and look at the RGB. 74, 74, 79, which we can live with that. That looks about right. If we move it around, we can see that the blues are still just a little bit higher than the rest of the image, but it's not the end of the world. We can live with that. So there you have it. Now the other place that the eyedropper tools reside are in the levels dialog box, and they do exactly the same thing. We can click on it and reestablish white balance with the middle eyedropper tool. These other two eyedroppers are used when you know you're going to print the image, and what happens is that let's click the white and come over here and let's hold down the Alt key and then come over this way, and we begin to see where the brightest areas of the image are, and the brightest areas of the image seem to be right below the hairline on the forehead. So we're going to go ahead and make note of that. We're going to take this, click it right there, and then we're going to take the dark or the black point eyedropper. Going to come here, hold down the Alt key, and then we notice that the absolute blackest area of the image is right around the armpit right here. So let's click on that. And then we have what we call the adjusted tonality for printing. However, I really don't like that result, so I don't use these as much as other people do. There's a lot of talk that this is the most accurate way to do it. I just simply don't like the way it looks. It's a personal thing. It's subjective, and so what I do is do it more on site and do more of looking at the histogram in the curves dialog box in order to adjust these things. And there's a little bit of headroom on the bright end, and if we take that and put it right there, see, I can do a lot of finite adjustment here. I can adjust. So I just really enjoy using the curves dialog box on a manual basis for extending the dynamic range of an image rather than using those eyedroppers. First of all, the eyedroppers are a lot more work. I think I can get a better result much more quickly using curves on a manual basis. So there you have the eyedropper tools and the numbers of different ways that those can be used to effect either tonal adjustments or color adjustments in Photoshop CS6.